Good morning, and uh, hello, Nikolai,
Hi there,
and
Simon.
hello, Janice. As with all things
Hi.
technology, I've not actually managed to share it into the Facebook group. So let me just, if I do live on Facebook, let's just see if it works this time. Sorry, share to group UK. Let's do it like that. Next. And we'll just open it. Welcome to everybody that's joined us via Zoom, by the way. I know we've got lots of people coming. Just waiting for the Facebook live feed to open. But whilst I do that, welcome to everybody that's coming along. I'm going to be speaking to Nikolai from Naylor Accountancy Services, which is obviously the name behind his head, and Intelligent Outsourcing, and Janice over in the Philippines. So, Janice, I know you've got lots of different things to do. Perhaps you could just introduce yourself and say who you are, please.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Janice De Leon from the NAS group here, Intelligent Outsourcing here in the Philippines. I'm the team leader for the NAS accountancy group here.
That's brilliant, Janice. Thank you. And I know you've got one or two things to do. So if you want to disappear now, and then we'll come back to you after a little while, about half an
Yeah,
hour
Janice.
after I've had a
Bye.
chat to Nikolai. So, Nikolai, welcome. Can you just sort of give people a little bit of background as to what Nikolai is all about, please?
All right, hi, Simon. Thank you. Well, I have my own practice, Naylor Accountancy Services, which I've been running for quite a while now. I'm not sure, 8 years, or 13. I've just been told. Sorry, wow. And then Intelligent Outsourcing, we sort of started about 5 years ago. What we do at IO is obviously offshore accountants. We do boutique and niche in that. I started doing the IO just for my business, Naylor Accountancy, and we now have 5 people working for the Naylor Accountancy team out there, with 2 of us here, including me, and we are just hiring somebody else here part-time because you do need people in the UK as well. But our engine room is in with IO in the Philippines, so all of the real work of accounts is actually done out there: bookkeeping, VAT, self-assessments, and management accounts. I think that's everything.
So just to summarise that, then, so we've got UK-based accountancy practice, Tunbridge Wells. That's right?
That's right, here in
Yeah.
sunny Tunbridge Wells.
That's right. So UK-based accountancy practice, and 80-90% of the production is done in the Philippines through IO?
Yes, I'd probably say 90 almost. I do R&D, but I'm going to be shipping that there soon because I don't have time for it.
Excellent. So, and you're obviously running both businesses with the support of other people.
Yes, yeah, I couldn't do it without the other people.
Okay. So we've got a list of questions. I've got a list of questions. The people that registered with the webinar, I've got a list of questions to go through. If anybody wants to ask questions, and like Nikolai or when Janice is speaking to expand, then just ask those questions in the Q&A below. So what we're going to do, I'll start working through the questions, Nikolai. The
Sure.
First one is, what's the difference between offshoring and outsourcing of the work?
Yeah, I mean, outsource. If it speaks pedantic, that word outsourcing, you have different types of work: the outsourcing of work and the offshoring of it. The outsourcing of work just means you give the work to someone else and they do it and they come back to you and you have to check it, and it's doing whatever systems they do. You don't know who's doing it and to the quality and stuff. Offshoring means that you hire or you get somebody who works specifically for your company using your systems, accountancy systems in this case, to your methods and your standards, and they can also do whatever you want. So it may not just be the accounts, it could be emails. So my guys email my Naylor team, they email all my clients, so that takes that pain from me and the team here, well, the 2 of us here, and they will talk to them on the phone, and they will also Teams. So we have VoIP phone, so it's literally just an 01892, well, for Tunbridge Wells. So they don't, but the whole, everybody knows where they are. So the difference is they're part of your team, and they should be treated as such by you as well if it's an offshore. Whereas outsourcing is just the work.
Okay, so just so if I rephrase that into my language,
Yeah.
outsourcing is where you outsource individual jobs, or
Yes.
you outsource to effectively a whole company and they look after the allocation.
Yes.
Whereas onshoring is a team member that is recruited by you, in effect. I know you support through that, but
Yes.
they are effectively a direct team member, and then you give that specific person the work in order for them to do to your standards. Is that a
That's
reasonable,
correct. Yes.
reasonable
Yeah.
summary?
And what we find is we do get people who've tried the outsourcing, it's not worked, and then they come to the offshoring, and they love it just because it's their team and they can do whatever they want with them.
Excellent. Okay, so next question: why would somebody want to do the offshoring? So you just picked up on that. Lots of people have
Yeah.
problems with outsourcing because they don't necessarily get the same person each time. But what other reasons would there be why somebody would want to do offshoring?
Well, it's not just the work; it's also just if it's to loosen the pain for actually talking to clients potentially via email, the communication. Um, you, they might want to talk, have them doing a lot of the talking rather than the person in the UK. But the biggest pain we're finding is that people can't actually hire the right person here in the UK. So it takes the pain of recruitment here out. But it's also, it is cheaper. So it's at least half the price of here. Um, so so you can get two team members at least for the price of one. But they're also hardworking out there as well.
Excellent. And I'll break off because I've got the first question come through, and what I'll try and do is I'll answer the questions as they come up in order to. So the first question is from Eloise. So how much checking do you have to do? So if the team member in the Philippines is preparing the work, how much checking do you have to do, if any, in the UK? And if you're not actually doing the work, Nikolai, what are you doing?
Well, it's a good question. I'm doing a lot. I feel so busy, but it's trying to grow the businesses. So, and I do the client interaction, so the added value stuff. So what we're doing at the moment in Naylor team is we kind of grow a lot of seminars and sort of the FD type stuff of work, which is where I'm getting involved. But when it comes to the check-in of the work, it's just as it is with somebody in the UK. So you would have to make sure they get to your standards. Once they're at your standards, you would review the work here. So say what we do in the Naylor team is we review the accounts that are prepared out there by a senior person here, and then we have that meeting and we send it off to the client from there. With the VAT, we don't actually check it. We do initially when we're training, because we need to check the standard. But once the standard is correct, we don't need to. And the bookkeeping is the same again. It gets checked sort of when it's the VATs by the person doing the VAT, which is normally the same person, or the year-end accounts as well when we're reviewing that. But we have to get them to the right standards. But it's just like an employee here.
Yeah, so I think that's the big difference. The mind shift for most people is that it's not
Yeah.
you're not sending to another company to do it. It is a team member within your company that's doing it. So it's just the same. It's just the same as a team member in the UK. If you had to check it for a trainee in the UK, you would have to check it. And if it was a more senior team member that's perhaps been doing it for 1 or 2 years, you wouldn't necessarily have to check it so much. But it's your management decision as to what you're comfortable with not checking as the experience grows.
And that's key. They are part of your team, and you need to make sure they are part of your team and they feel like part of your team, and everyone in the UK believes them to be part of your team. And that's the biggest crux, making sure that they are part of your team, because if that isn't the situation, it's not going to work as well for you.
Brilliant. And then as a follow-up question from Richard, do your outsourcing team or your outsourced team, so your offshored team,
Yeah,
and this is, I have to be,
it's complicated in that respect. Yes.
so does your offshored team engage with UK clients directly? Do they speak to them on the phone? Do they email? How does that bit work?
Yeah, I mean, for the Naylor team, we do all of the above. So they talk to clients on the phone. We have actually clients ring in to the Naylor to Naylors and asking for Jason or Janice or Maribel or Marinol, and they go and speak to them. What we're doing just on that bit is we are getting VoIP phone numbers at the moment for every single one of the Naylor team, and we're going to have it so that they can actually get called directly if they want to have a call. The guys out there also use Teams with our clients, so they might, if they need to show them something and talk through something, so they can show the screen. This is for the Naylor team, and I'll tell you what they do with other teams as well. And then, but what we're doing with the VoIP one is we're making it so we can offer that to other IO clients if they want that. But you don't want to do that straight away. You need to first of all be comfortable with your team member, and then go for email first. All the guys in the Naylor team email all the clients. With most of the clients that we have, they email directly to the clients as well. If it's bookkeeping or VAT or anything like that. So they will have communication with them directly. And we've had some really positive feedback from that communication, that they're being, very, polite and everything. We do have to just teach them a little bit on how to sign off, because a lot of them sign off God bless and everything, which is I love, but it's not the way we do it in the UK. And we also say sir. Over there, everyone's sir and mom. So we say, when you talk to clients, don't say Sir John or Sir David or Mom D. So they don't do that either. So there's just a little bit of cultural stuff there. But the answer is they do everything. On the Naylor team, website, you'll see all the team there. So, whenever I engage a client, I tell them straight away. I have to say, when I first started doing it, I had somebody in my team here who didn't like offshoring. She's not with our team anymore. And it had a negative impact on my way of thinking. And I was scared of telling my clients in Naylor. I did tell people, and nobody was bothered, because everyone's used to, talking to India or even if the Philippines with Apple and things, for all the support that you ring. So nowadays, people seem very happy with it, and they don't mind it whatsoever. And what I always say is, we do this so that we can give you a better service. We wouldn't be able to give you the service that we have if we didn't have the team in the Philippines, because we just wouldn't be able to have the resources to give you the quick service that we deliver. So that's where we are. And other teams, they do email. I don't know many who actually talk to them on the phone to their clients. I think that's, people are a bit worried about that more. But also but it is there if you want them to.
Excellent. So just to summarize that, so in your specific case, your team, they communicate via email and Teams, Microsoft Teams, and on the telephone, and shortly you're gonna have a VoIP system so they can do it direct, so clients can ring them direct. Yeah.
At the moment, what we do is we have a phone out there, which is a VoIP phone from here, and that rings, and they all have to huddle around that. So they're not on their screen when they're talking to. But it's only by our admin person, Rona, so she will always pick up the phone. And we also, this is another thing that we're doing in IO, just for a Naylor team and the IO team, is we're going to start some telephone training so that they answer phones better, because there's loads of training out there. So we're going to be putting that in place, and that's going to be available to clients, IO clients, if they want the team member to actually talk to clients as well. I mean, I wouldn't advise that straight away. They need to be trained up, be happy, and I'd start with emails. But then when that starts happening, then there's no reason why they can't do the rest.
No,
as long as you're happy.
And that's that starting process from an email perspective. You might need to give them some coaching around the language that they're using. Perhaps have some templates as how to sign things off. Did I hear that right?
Yeah. I mean, we always do that coaching within IO anyway, right at the start, just so they are aware of it. But as it's always worth having your own influence on it, because it's your team member. As I do with I've had in my Naylor team, I've had to talk to someone who was very formal, like dear John, and signing off, yours faithfully in an email. And to me, it's high. I've managed to get him to say hello. He won't go to the high bit, but so it's what you want to have your influence on how you want yourself represented in your company, your accountancy practice.
Okay, and then just as a follow-on question from that, then, so what's the English like? Obviously, they all speak English, otherwise you wouldn't be able to communicate to start with. But do you have any reservations about that when they're talking to your customers? Is it good, bad, indifferent? And we're going to be speaking to Janice in a little while, so we'll get a bit of a feel for ourselves. But
yeah, written English is all really good because the schooling is basically in English. It's American English, so the dates are all weird. So that's another thing we have to teach them. I got confused to start with all the dates, but so the written English is really good. Their spoken English is good, and it's very positive. The only issue is that not everybody has a very clear way of talking. So because they speak obviously Tagalog, which is the main language. They have loads of different languages in the Philippines, but in the island we're on is Tagalog, and that's the official language, English and Tagalog. So what that means is that if you want somebody to be speaking on the phone, we'd have to choose somebody who has a very good speaking English. Like Janice is really good. We've got team members who are really good, but we have some who are a little bit more difficult. In my opinion, that it's easier than some other accents that you can have from outsourcing or offshoring, but there's just some people may find it a little bit more difficult, and they need to be working on it. And that's why we're doing the telephone training as well, just to make sure people are aware of how to answer the phone, so it's positive, so sounds good, and it's what you'd want on that delivery. But on the whole, they're very good. When I'm out there, I am trying to learn a little Tagalog, and Janice will laugh at my Tagalog because it's awful, and I promise that I am going to learn more next time I'm there, Janice. But they all speak English, and they're always, and even when they speak Tagalog, there's English in there, so it's you sort of hear English thrown about all the time, and it's American.
So my Norfolk accent saying Tagalog, is that how you pronounce it?
Tagalog, yeah.
Tagalog is difficult enough without trying to learn the whole new language itself. So just
and all the schooling is in English, if I haven't said that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and just touching on that, you said you're in Tagalog. Is that where
No, we're not in Tagalog. We're in the island of Luzon.
Okay, so that's
Luzon. I've just been told you say it Luzon.
Luzon.
So that's the biggest island.
So Manila is the capital. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So why are you not in Manila? Why are you not in the center of the place? Is that strategic or?
Yes, it is strategic, and the reason for it is very simple. Is that in Manila, it's a massive populace, massive. We're literally only about 3 hours away drive, but it takes about 7 just because of the traffic. People that work in Manila take about 2 hours each way, so that's nearly 4 hours a day just to commute to work because of the traffic, and it's just horrific. So what you do there is it's just too much of a metropolis. It's very expensive as well. So being out where we are is in the province. It's an old Subic. It's called Subic Bay, which is an old U.S. Navy base. The reason for being in there is it's a free trade zone. So what that means is it's because the US have left, by the way. There's no US. They left in the 90s, I think 93. So the whole infrastructure is there, and they're built on infrastructure. So we've got fiber optic cable in there. It gets priority over the rest of the island around there and the region around there for if electricity ever goes down, that'll come up first. And if there's any issues, that'll be the first one to be dealt with. It also means that the flooding around there is a lot better. And why you're not in Manila and where we are is the work-life balance. We have people coming from Manila to join us, and we have people in say the Meads group. 2 of those came from Manila that were hired straight away, and
they're relocating to
Subic because Subic is on the coast. There's a Luangpur, which is the biggest city, literally just outside the gates, and you have to go through a police sort of almost cordon. I mean, everyone can, it's not an issue, but you can't wander around without a pass the whole of the area. And so people relocate there from Manila because the work-life balance is a lot better. So the average commute, guys, is probably half an hour, 40 minutes tops each way, as opposed to 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours commute in Manila.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. So just finishing off on that, what are the cultural differences? I know you touched on the sir and madam and things like that. Are there any other cultural issues that people should be aware of?
Yeah, and I'm still learning them. so that there are, I mean, hierarchy is a big thing out there, which we don't have. Well, one thing is obviously the food is slightly different. They do eat with their hands. If you don't see it often, but they do eat with their hands out there. They are very they want to please you. So one thing that we do have to do when they first start with this is make sure they don't just say yes. If you say, "Oh, do you understand what that process?" Yes. Well, don't say yes if you don't. And it's so we've had to instill that into them, which has worked, because our team actually manages to do that. And they won't, as a culture, they don't like questioning. So our team in the IO are taught to actually do the questioning as well. The other cultural main one is just that they do look up to us, as in the people from Europe and foreigners, because of their history, which is just something that's almost inbuilt into them, which is, we're not used to it here in the UK. And they treat each other with respect. Their humor is so much like ours, and that's what I find really quite entertaining. They're also very friendly. Some of the friendly people that I know, and that's why I love working there and with them, because they are just so friendly. People will talk to you that you don't even know on the streets, and and it's just, yeah, no, I like the culture out there, but they're very family orientated. Family is the most important thing to them.
Excellent. I've got another question. Does your offshore team keep up to date with things like CPD and changes within the UK? Well, given what you just said a minute ago, I would imagine that, again, that's my responsibility as the practice owner to make sure that my team member is as up to date or not as I want them to be. Are they qualified as well, Nikolai? How's that work?
Yeah, I mean, we have two sort of, well, there's actually three levels, but the main two levels of is a CPA, which is the highest level, which is like an ACCA, ACA, CIMA, whatever, which is was it certified practical? Yes, certified public accountant. And that's like the American system. So before that, they have to do a 5-year, I believe, accountancy practice at university, and then they do that. So that's the highest level. So, and then you have the people that have done the accountancy degree, which is like 5 years, and that's sort of, but they don't go on to do the CPA. So they've got loads of knowledge of accounting. And then you've got the technicians, which I think is a 3-year course out there, which is more like the bookkeeping type stuff as well as some of the accounting. So if you want, what we always say, it doesn't, the two are higher levels, so you'd want to start with the accountant with a degree in accountancy, or the CPA. With the terms of training them in the CPD, we do actually offer CPD, but it's a very basic, but it's online training, and we try and see to our clients, are you happy for them to do it? So they do one CPD course a month or something. What we find with the guys out there, though, is they're up to date on loads because they Google everything. They have VAT out there, same as we do. It is slightly different, but it is VAT, so they're used to that. But you can ask Janice more of these questions, but that we have a whole team, and we have 7 core values. One of the core values is help each other grow. Now, to help each other grow, we say to all our IO clients, means that everybody in the IO team, because they're all doing UK accounts, will help everyone else if they need it. So we don't just throw everyone to the lions when they start with us, because they are given an overview of the UK law. But if it changes, we will maybe send out a remit to everybody, because I have to do it for Naylor team anyway. But it is up, as you say, up to the person who has the practice to make sure, manager in the UK, and making sure they know it all. But they will be looking at things as well and doing CPD.
So I've got a mental picture now. So IO is responsible. Can I use that word? Responsible for the whole team that's out there, all these different individual team members that are working for individual practices. There might be, say, 2 or 3 from one accountancy practice and 3 or 4 from another accountancy practice. But on a collaborative basis, across all of those different team members that are working for the different practices, they're helping each other and supporting each other to get better. Is that a fair description?
Yeah. If there's an issue, but what you find out there is everybody has these on and listening to music, and they're focusing on their work. But if there is a problem, they have them. What we're doing is we have a mentor for every new person. So they'll have a mentor, so that person will be able to go to that person. So if they use Xero or QuickBooks, we'll put them with somebody who uses Xero and QuickBooks already with another team, with another company, so that they have somebody to go to and they can talk to. And if that person can't help, then they'll know who to go to, basically.
So there's some cross support, basically. So the practice owner in the UK is not solely responsible for providing all of the support. So if they can get some support internally within IO, that's available. Am I exaggerating that, or is that?
No, and that's how we've tried to push it for everybody. So if you've been trained up and you're not sure how to progress with something, we do say, please just ask somebody internally before you go to the practice owner. It doesn't always work like that. So people do just type, oh, it's easy just to go to Janet in, Bromley or wherever, who has their accountancy practice. That was a made up name. And then, but we do try and get them to ask internally first, because otherwise, I know what it's like to be a practice owner, and a manager. We have little time. We are all running around trying to do our own things. So we only want them to do it. And also with the training, we've got some tips. So if you want tips, you can go on our website, top tips for offshore, and then we can send them to you. But with that, one of them is when you do the training, record it. So it's recorded so they can review it back, and make sure they do review it back before they ask questions. Another top tip is make sure, try and have a we have your suite process, but a process written up, even if it's in Word, before you train it. If you don't, before you train them, get them to write it up, and then you can just check it, or somebody in your team can check it. So then you start having all these processes. So if you start growing your team, which is what we're finding, then there's already a process written up for the next person to look at.
And just so you said record it, just for the people watching that.
Oh, sorry.
How do you record it? What's the technology?
Well, you can use Zoom, Loom, Teams. With Teams, I've found, and this you might be able to tell me if I'm wrong, but we need to have 3 people in Teams for it to record. So I normally, if we record anything, say the management accountant recently, that's sort of a year ago, I get the guy, someone else in, and then just record it. They just come out of the meeting, record it, and then it's there in Teams for them to view whenever they need to.
Brilliant. Okay, and I'm going to get Janice back in a minute, but just before we do, let's just and I've got your question as well, Richard. I'll come to your question after I've spoken to Janice if I can. Well, no, I will. There won't be any can about it, because it's an important one around time recording and working hours and things like that.
Sure.
So, just from a contractual point of view, then, Nikolai, who is the contract with, and who ultimately has responsibility for that team member? So it sounds like I'm contracting with you, but I'm responsible for the team member. So if I want to get rid of the team member, is it you that I fire, or is it team? How does all that work? Who's responsible for the HR?
Well, the HR, well, first of all, the contract's with Intelligent Outsourcing Limited in the UK. So it's all within the UK. It means everything's invoiced in sterling, which most offshore is on US dollars. So you don't have to worry about that. Actual team member is employment contract is with Intelligent Outsourcing Inc. in the Philippines. So all of the HR responsibility is with the Philippines business. So what that means, if you do hire someone, but you have 6 months within to make your mind up if you like that person or not, and we'll change that person. In the Philippines, employment law is really strict. It's actually stricter than here in many ways, because a lot of the abuse they've had in the past, and we obviously adhere to all of those employment laws out there, which not all Filipino companies do, by the way. even though they're there. So what we do is we try within the 3 months. If you're not happy, we will do a lot of feedback with you and them in the first month, loads weekly, and then within the first 3 months. So if it's not within 3 months, we will want to change that person. You have got 6 months. Then after 6 months, it's difficult for us to change the person because they're permanent contract, and it's just very difficult. So if you're not happy with the person, you speak to us, and we will have the HR discussion with them. The HR discussion will always come through us, and we are very good at delivering that. If you have any issues with that person, we need to know, because we will either put more training in and support in IO in the Philippines, or if they are really not working out, we will obviously replace the person. But we need to know straight away, and what we find is the first month is the key. Embed them quickly, these people, in the team. Is that answered all the questions? Sorry.
Yeah. So just to summarize that, then I'm contracting with IO, but I also have a responsibility as a team member that we're recruiting to make sure that we meet Filipino law, and you would support me, or IO would support me through that process. Is that?
Yeah, no, you don't worry about Filipino. We do all that. So
Right.
that's all us. So they are contract with a Filipino company. You don't worry about it. So there's a team member, but you have absolutely no HR responsibility. That's all us at all.
So
you
you
have
issue
nothing.
all the contracts of employment,
Yeah,
if they have contracts of employment and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. So we do all that. So you have no HR issue. We have all that. The contract is for 12 months. So because we have to get people who are committed onto this, and it's a rolling 12 months, because it's a journey to take. It's like buying a puppy. You don't just buy one and get rid of it at Christmas. You have to commit. So we want committed people to offshoring. What we're finding is people grow teams. It's not a math. They just have to embed it, and then they start growing, if they're growing their practice, obviously. But you need to be committed, because you have to put the time in as well.
Excellent, brilliant, thank you. So I'll give you a break now then, Nikolai, and we'll have a quick chat to Janice. If you're there, Janice, brilliant. Janice, just to remind everybody, or the people, there's a few people that joined because the Facebook live feed isn't working. So there's a few people that joined after the intro. Janice, you're working for Naylor Accountancy Solutions in the Philippines as their team leader. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Excellent. So just share a little bit more about what you do, Janice. What's your role within the practice, within the team?
Within the team, I oversee my team. I check on their work. How are we progressing as a team with the deadlines, with everything that we have, the workload, and everything else in between.
That's brilliant. And just how do you find working for a UK practice or a UK company rather than working for a Filipino company? What's the differences from your perspective?
At first, it was a challenge because obviously time zones different. So before I had to work 8 to 5 in the mornings. Now it's 3 in the afternoons up to 11 in the evening. It was a bit of a challenge in the beginning, because by the time it was 11, I almost slept.
Was asleep, yeah.
I was almost asleep. Just joking. Don't tell Sir Nikolai. Don't tell Nikolai about that. It was like that, but it was like probably a week, and then I got to, I made an adjustment, and it's all okay.
Excellent. And how do you find that then? Just expand on that. If you're starting at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and not finishing until say 11 o'clock
11.
at night in the UK, Nikolai, is that 9 to 5 or 8 to 4? Where's that?
That's, I think, 6 to 3.
6
Yeah,
to
that's
3
right.
in the UK, is it?
So just on the hours, they work. It's always 6 to 3, but Filipinos don't change their clocks.
Right.
So then, when it comes to winter time, it's going to be 2 till 10 for Janice.
Aha. So you
better.
start an hour earlier and leave an hour earlier. So in a
Yes.
fortnight's time,
Yes.
you get to bed earlier. So how do you find? So you don't have to answer this question, Janice, but how do you find that starting later, working late? Does it interrupt family life, or is it?
Right. For me, it was actually good, because in the mornings I do bring my daughter to school, so at least I could, prepare her and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm now so used to it that it's like second nature. So I don't mind. I don't mind anymore. And we have enough time in the weekends to do everything else anyway. So it's fine. It's good.
Brilliant. So
It's
it
good
fits
work
with
time.
it fits with what you're trying to achieve. Then that's
Yes.
fantastic.
Yes.
Another question for you. We touched on this briefly with Nikolai. How do you find, obviously, the English conversation, the English language, but within the UK, I've got a fairly pronounced Norfolk accent, uh, uh, and obviously we got Newcastle and Manchester, and then come down south, and you've got Cornish. How do you find the different accents? How do you work around that?
I think probably because of watching a lot of Harry Potter movies, it helped me a lot. And if really like if we know where someone comes from in the UK, then we usually go to YouTube and try to, you know, listen to how they pronounce things, and then it'll it's okay.
So from
Our
a point of
ears
view,
get used to it.
so from the point of view of your personal development with regards to understanding English,
Yeah.
you can go, I never even thought about that. So you can go to YouTube and places like that and listen to the nuances, the
Yes.
slang, for want of a better
Just like
phrase, and then off the back of that, improve your community. I mean, I'm rubbish at language. I can't. I have enough trouble with English, let alone French and all the rest of it. So anybody that can speak more than one language to me is a god. It's just brilliant. So that's fantastic. I hadn't really thought about doing that. So just briefly then, before we go back to Nikolai, for you personally, what's the best thing about working for a UK company rather than a Filipino company?
For me, I think that's the work-life balance. The one because that's my goal, the one I want to achieve. So I really got it here from working in the outsourcing way. That I get to take care of my daughter in the morning and then work in the evenings, and I achieve balance that most people don't get. When you're working for a Filipino company, you provide at the same time as your daughter, and everything's so hectic.
Excellent.
Uh,
So you've got the best of both worlds then, basically.
yes,
That's that's brilliant, Janice. Thank you very much.
On that though, Simon, in most Filipino companies will make you work on a Saturday as well. So
All right. Okay.
it's a 6-day work week. So we do 5-day work week, obviously. Well, it's a 40 hour day, which is obviously different to
So it's
us.
a 40-hour week for, within IO.
40-hour week, yes.
Yeah. Whereas if you was working, if you, I'd love to have a
I'm an
40-hour day.
accountant.
I could get so much done. But so basically, within IO, you're working 40 hours a week. But if you was working for a Filipino company, are you saying that would be a 47-hour week, or would those 40 hours be spread over 6 days as opposed to
spread over
5?
Be a 50-hour week or something
Be a
like that.
50-hour week.
Yeah.
48 hour week. Yeah, it would be a
Blimey.
48-hour week.
48 hours, sorry, 48.
That's brilliant. Yeah. And yeah, and Anne's just said, imagine how much work you could get done with a 40-hour day.
No, I know.
Has Harry Potter performed
Yeah, Harry
performed
Potter.
his,
That
performed
would
his
be
magic?
awesome.
Yes,
Yeah.
very good, Anne. So that's brilliant, Janet. If anybody's got any questions, then Janice is going to stick around until the end. You're going to disappear now, but Janice will stick around until the end. So if anybody's got any questions for Janice, then fire them into the Q&As or the chat, and I'll gladly ask them when I'm finished. Let's go back to Nikolai now. I just got two points. Thank you, Janice. 2 points. The general, how do you work with GDPR, Nikolai?
Yeah.
Whose responsibility is that? And from a technology point of view, how do you stop team members over there pinching your data and selling, and how does all that work?
Well, GDPR, we are GDPR compliant. We spend a lot of time and money on GDPR because it was a big thing. We have a DPO, which is a data protection officer. He's UK. That's all he does, data protection officer for companies, and he's helped us through the whole process. So we've done a lot of things so that people can't access it out of their homes. In say if it's zero and everything, you have that activation code or authentication code. We basically have a mobile phone in the office that it goes to, and they put it in from there.
And that stays in the office, yeah. So
We have two, and they
right.
stay in the office. Christine and the HR guys have them, the managers. Then what we have is, well, just to get in and out of the office, there's guards, armed guards. There's armed guards everywhere in the Philippines, which is a bit perturbing seeing the guns. But we're also in an area which is actually very safe, because you have to actually go through a cordon police area anyway, and they have their own police that keep going around. But you have the security, and then we also have fingerprint opening of doors. So you have to have your fingerprint done. So when I go over, it still remembers my fingerprint, so I can just go in anytime. We do have a proper lock as well, which Christine does, when we need to, when it is actually the end of the day. And there's also video outside. We are going to start CCTV inside as well. They have lockers in there, so they're not allowed their mobile phones at the desks. So they have their mobile phones in the lockers, just for various security reasons. They can't save anything down onto their PC. We have Microsoft 365 rather than Office 365 because of that added protection that offers. And everything's encrypted, so the whole PC is actually encrypted, and the whole PC gets wiped every night basically for everything on it as well. So there's loads of things, there's loads more that we do to make it GDPR compliant. What we do with a client, and what D is doing at the moment, is just chasing a few people that haven't signed it, but we have a DPA, a reverse DPA with our IO clients, which is a data protection agreement. So what they do in the Philippines is processing the data. They're not doing the data. None of it is actually in the Philippines, because they're not putting it to their PC. What they're doing is it in the cloud. So it's all in the cloud, or on the server in the UK or the US. The US is okay because of the data protection shield agreement. It's quite complex with the GDPR, but it's okay, even though it's in the UK, in the USA, because of these agreements that the US and the EU have. I don't know how it's all going to operate with Brexit, but that's how it operates now. But it has been quite a big learning getting GDPR in place, because it's more complicated than you think. And the biggest one is payroll. We have to, that's why we have to be so careful, is the payroll bit that gives all that information. But what guys who are accountants need to make sure you are GDPR compliant, which I know, and everyone's saying, oh, it's over and it's over. It's not over. It's still here. It's just that you may not get audited.
Yeah, so from a simple perspective from a Simon, so Simon looks at it and says, Nikolai, have you sorted it?
The answer is yes.
Yes, okay. I'm happy with that. As long as you're looking after your end, then I'll look after my end. And then so before we come back to Richard's question, just we've not talked about money. So how much is it? And also, how does the selection process work? And who's involved? Do you find the person? Do I find the person? How does that work?
Yeah, on the fee, it all depends on who you get, on what level of experience you want. So we have sort of tiers of what we get. So you need to, it's at least half. It can be up to a third, but it's at least half. So we have admin. I have an admin person. So it depends what you're getting. If you're getting someone with a lot of experience, you pay more just because it is more, as you do in the UK. It's but it is a lot cheaper.
So
obviously.
when you say half, what you're talking about? So somebody
half
in the
a salary here,
Philippines, half the salary. So somebody in the Philippines with equivalent skill set to somebody in the UK would be half the money, basically.
At least half the money,
and it can be as much as a third.
It depends. Yeah, it all depends on what you're looking for.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. And that's it. And you are treating them like a proper team member. So you're recruiting them in order to look after them. So I think you said it. They're not a puppy. They're not just for Christmas. That was
No, they're not. And that's why we have we love working with other accountants, obviously, but we have to make sure that they are. I have actually, and we have said, come back later to certain people, just because they weren't ready for it now, but they will be later. So it's not, we don't just want loads of clients just, to fill the boots. And this is what is different with other offshoring companies. They're happy just to do that. We don't. We want to make sure it works, because we have an IO family there. We want the people to work well and together, and we also want to make sure that they're happy and our clients happy, because what we don't want is a client or not to be happy, and and it not work for them. Whereas I know people who've had 3 for a year in other offshoring company, and it's not worked. You just got rid of them. But he
Okay.
hasn't made it work,
And
and
then
they haven't been bothered.
just moving on to the selection process, Nikolai. How does the selection process work?
The selection process works by, you speak to Dee first, who's here in the UK. You can actually see on our website, there's a little video of her. She's half Filipino, half American, just so you know. So she is American, but she is here. And she will actually find out what you want, what you're looking for, because she's worked for Naylor Accountancy prior for a long time. So she knows what is required anyway, just from an accountancy practice perspective. Now she's obviously doing it for other accounts, so she knows exactly what the guys need to look for. Then the HR team out there will go through a lot of CVs, do interviews with people, and then we'll put 2 forward to you, or to the people, to you to interview. Once you've done those interviews, if people are normally happy with one of them. We've had somebody happy. This is Paul from Meets Group, wanted both, so he got both straight away, and now he's got a team of 4, 5. But then you've got, if you're not happy, then we go, or you want to carry on looking, we'll carry on looking. So we have Map with us, and because he's looking for management accounting level, so he's just hired his 3rd. So and the thing is that he's sort of been through like 6 interviews. What he says, he always wants 7 interviews. The first one he did it after the 5th, which to us is a lot, but to him, he that's what he does, which is looking for a specific person to do management reporting.
So what happens? Say for example, I'm interested in having a look, but I really want to see what the people are like. Is there a finder's fee? How does that work? Can I? What I'm saying is, can I ring you up and say, right, okay, I'm interested in this process, Nikolai. Can I interview a couple of 3 people to see, and then?
Yeah, no, I mean, what we can do is send CVs, and that's what Dee sort of does. Just sends blank CVs of people. What we can do is you can do a kickstart. So whenever anyone comes to us, we have a kickstart. So that's like 500 quid. So everybody has to pay 500 quid, and that's for the very reason that if somebody then doesn't take on the person for the time that Dee and the team are spending, we need some income owner to pay for them. So there is that. So if they just wanted to do that, there would be the 500 quid, but then they wouldn't have that person down the line.
Yeah, I'm just wondering out loud as to whether. So, say for example, I'm a UK practice, and I think, right, okay, I'm going to put an advert on Indeed or something like that,
Yeah.
And I'm also going to put an advert out there with Nikolai, and having appraised all of the different applications, if there's any from the UK, then but from what you're saying is, if you want to go through that process, then there's a 500 quid commitment fee, or
there would be,
whatever language you want to call for it.
Yeah.
But you could get an appraisal of both processes. Or both situations before you made a decision.
Yeah, you could. I never even thought of that, Simon.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Thank you. So, Richard's question then. So, can you talk a little bit about the managing the team members? How do they do the timekeeping? Do they check in and out? Do they notify you when they're there? Do you know when they're there, or do you just assume that they're going to be there at 6 o'clock in the morning and knock off at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? Do they keep timesheets? How does that sort of managerial process work?
Yeah, on the time, we don't do timesheets apart from they clock in and they sign in. I mean, it is a sign in physically, and then they sign out when they leave as well at the end of the day. So we know what they've been doing. If they're on holiday or anything, they have to come to a holiday. They'll come to IO management, and then IO management will go to the client and say, look, are you happy if they have this holiday? First of all, we always have to go to IO because we have to make sure we're happy with it. and then they're happy with it. So that's that. If they're off sick, our guys in the Philippines will email the team member, the client, the company, and let them know that they're off sick. We have people who do timesheets because they're your team members. So if you want to do timesheet, get them to do timesheets. So we have Verve that do timesheets all day long, so they know exactly what they're doing. I don't do timesheets, and I don't know many that do anymore, but they can do timesheets if you want them to.
Okay, so just in summary from that perspective, then there's you expect them to be there at 6 and go home at 3. You do the holidays initially and the sick and that sort of stuff, and provide all of the infrastructure for them to be there.
Yes.
Yeah, and then basically anything else that you want to do. So who does the appraisals? Do you do the appraisal process, or do we do the appraisal process?
We do the appraisal process, but with the client. So the appraisal is with the client, but we do it through the client and through the person. So the team member will be seeing what their appraisal is of how it's going and how they're feeling and everything with the client, and we'll also do it from the other side as well. And then there's appraisal there. If there's any, Dee will always be, and this is Dee, she actually calls every month, every client, and she will now be having a load of questions that she's going to ask just to see how things are going. She has just been asking how things are going and just having the conversation. But what we're finding is that we need to be a bit more specific on asking how things are for everybody. So we sort of do a template for that. So you have that we want to be talking to you. Not everybody is able to, because not everybody has the time to talk, but we want to have that commitment to everyone, that we want to know what's going on from everyone's perspective.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you. And then a quick question from Martin. Martin, yes, it is being recorded. The webinar is being recorded, despite the technical issues that's gone on with Facebook.
Can't believe that, Simon.
It's fate. It is being recorded. There's a little thing flashing telling me that it's recorded, and fingers crossed, when we stop the webinar, it should render. And as you've registered, I'll email a copy. I'll email a copy out to you. So yes is the answer to your question. Right, we've got 9 minutes, Nikolai. I'm going to fire down some questions that people have sent in before the meeting, some of which I think we've already answered. But it just sort of as brief and succinct as we can. So from Douglas, I've got, can I outsource QuickBooks and VT Plus work? Do you provide a quarterly, monthly service levels? How does that work? So I think from my perspective, what you've already shared is it's entirely up to you. So if you use QuickBooks, or in Michael's case, he uses KPM, whatever software you use, they can use. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, they're literally your team member. They have to have access to it. So if it's cloud-based, they'd obviously have cloud-based access. If it's through your server, you'd have to give them access to your server, or however you do a desktop. So you'd have to give them access to it. So it's whatever. We have people using CCH, we have people using Iris, we have people using QuickBooks, Xero. I'm not aware of Sage. I don't like Sage myself, but I'm not aware of that. But it's all, receipt banks, auto entry, everything.
So just because you just touched on that, so how do I, if I'm in the UK and I've just got a server and perhaps 2 or 3 computers on that server, how can I get them access to my server? Did you say remote desktop or?
Yeah, remote desktop, or access straight into your server. I mean, we have an IT
through a VPN type scenario.
Yeah. I mean, say for Naylor team, we have my BTC server is literally over there in next door. So they have a VPN access to the BTC for doing their year-end accounts in there. So and self-assessment. So that's where that is. And we have the same with other teams that goes straight to their server. But we have our IT person would need to talk to their IT person just to make sure everything is working.
So you would be involved and set that up, yes?
Yeah.
So that's
So what we have in the Philippines is we have our own Mark, our IT specialist there. Support guy. He will set everything up there for them, and he'll be in contact with the IT person, and he's also making sure everything's operational in the Philippines constantly as well.
Brilliant. Okay. Another question just come in from Anne. If the person is sick, is the cover?
No. There's not. If you, it's just as if you have a team member here. However, if it's something urgent, we can pull someone in to do it, and that's mainly from the Naylor team. But what that is just an ad hoc, and that's if it's urgent. But on the whole, that hasn't really happened much. It's just the odd occasion. But it's just like having a team member here. The best is if you have a bigger team, obviously.
Yeah.
In the Philippines, someone's sick, it doesn't matter. The other team member does it. And that's how, a team works here.
Brilliant, thank you. And then Eloise asked, "Are the team members up to date with UK VAT rules, etc.?" I think you said yes to a degree, but it's your responsibility to keep them up to date. Is that a fair
Yeah, and also,
synopsis?
I mean, if you look, and they'd have to do studying on it. Obviously, there's no UK tax out there. It's Philippine and US. So the Philippine tax system is all based on the US tax system. They do have VAT, which is the difference, but but it is so similar to ours in the UK.
Brilliant. And then Sarah asked, "Are you transparent with your clients about the use of overseas workers?" I think your answer to that was yes, you are, and
Yes,
you're
I
becoming
am.
more transparent. But the majority of people that you work with are not, or they at least start as definitely not, and then they build on it. Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, I'm totally transparent. I have been for years. So it was just that initially, you always worried about it. Say Mead's group, he had a newsletter done and sent out to all his clients, and they loved it. And basically, they thought he's being proactive and being a forward-thinking accountant. So you have to think how it's in your head, a lot of this, personally, and you have a word with some of your clients and you'll be surprised.
Yeah. Am I right in saying that within your letter of engagement in the UK, if you're a member of one of the chartered institutes, you need to tell the customer, or at least it needs to be in the letter of engagement, that you tell the customer that you might subcontract out. Am I?
Yeah, I mean, the engagement, I mean, also there's a lot of stuff on GDPR. There is something in there that states, I mean, I'm utilizing the one through Go Proposal, which is the ICOW one, and I've doctored it slightly just for the GDPR because it wasn't up to date on there. But yeah, I mean, it's in there. It's already in there that you can subcontract. So you're not doing anything different. And also the other thing you have to realize with this DPA that we're doing, the data processing agreement, that is effectively stating that this is what's happening as well. So you sign that in order to make sure that's happening.
Brilliant, excellent,
Because
thank you. And thank you, Anne, for your clarity. I understand your point. And then if we decided to recruit somebody, so say for example, Nikolai, I say, right, okay, this is something I want to do.
Yeah.
What are the timescales? How quickly could you find somebody?
We say up to 70 days, but it's
What's that in
actually
English? So that's
70 days, so 3
2
months.
months, 2 months,
Well,
yeah. 2 and a bit months.
well, yeah. So, but it is quicker on the whole, a lot quicker, and it can be. And most people are on a 30-day notice period, so there is a 30 days notice period that we have to adhere to. But you're talking a lead time, 2 months at least.
Okay,
We
so
have had it so somebody's almost started the next month really quickly, but that's very rare.
So again, it's very similar to UK. So put an advert out there, perhaps takes you a fortnight, 4 weeks to find some people, interview some people, make the offer. Then they hand in the notice, and then they've got 4 weeks basically notice period.
Yeah.
And so they would start. So it's at least 4 weeks if they've got a 4-week notice period,
Yeah.
plus any time that you take dilly-dallying over interviews and advertising and stuff like that. Not
Yeah.
you personally, but the practitioner in the UK. I'm not suggesting that
Yes.
you dilly-dally at all, Nikolai.
Well, what we do actually, we are constantly recruiting, even if we haven't got positions that we're actually recruiting for. So we have a list of CPAs or accountants that we can actually go to. So we're already doing that. So see, that's why it is quicker than that on the whole. So we have good people. So if you came to us today, we may actually have somebody for you to see in a few days' time. As soon as because we already have people in our pipeline. So we try and get that pipeline. We're also trying to make it, and we're toying with it now, but getting people in and sort of doing a bit of training with them first before we offload them, so they may be in ready to go within a month straight away with a bit of Xero QuickBooks training already. And we are also doing a program now where we can do up to 2 weeks training with them. If you're happy for us to do that on Xero QuickBooks, put them in the Naylor team with Xero, or maybe overseeing someone else, and doing an overview of everything and the tax and stuff, so that then have a better idea of it before they come straight in.
Brilliant. I'm conscious of the time. We've got 1 minute of the allotted hour to go. So I'm going to run through. We've not answered all of the questions that were asked at the beginning. So I'm just going to run down this list of questions. Whilst I do that, Nikolai, can you share with the people watching if they want to have a chat with you about this, or do they speak to? How do they get in touch? How do they take the next step? Is it you they need to be speaking to? Is it Dee they need to be speaking to, or Janice, or how does it all work?
It'd be Dee's normally the person that you contact. I don't mind talking to anyone, so you can talk to me. It's normally Dee, just because she knows the process, just as and she's the one that will be doing the hiring. If you're interested in talking to me, I'm happy to talk to you as well. If you can go on the website, you can just email us, or you can contact me via LinkedIn, or Dee via LinkedIn, D Smith. But just contact me, and I will put you forward or have a chat with you.
So what was the website? Sorry,
it's intelligentoutsourcing.co.uk.
And if I'm searching for Nikolai on LinkedIn, how do I spell Nikolai? Just for
Nikolai, and then Naylor, Naylor.
Brilliant. And then so just finally, then last question. I've been through the list. I think we've touched on most of the different questions that people had got. Rates per hour we did. What can go wrong? Just give me a feel for what types of UK practices are outsourcing. I would, or offshoring, sorry, I knew I was going to slip up at some point. I've managed just over 61 minutes and not say it. So just, I would imagine they're not sort of stereotypical traditional accountancy practices, but so just give me a flavour for the culture of the type of practices that are outsourcing.
I mean, they do tend to be the more modern ones, and it's all the ones using cloud accounting. The majority are QuickBook and Xero. I mean, Xero is the main one, but QuickBook as well. So they are majority those, and it's the ones that are looking at growing their practices a lot as well, because it's the engine room of actually all the compliance work. But you can be more than that, and that's the whole point. Is people also wanting to alleviate some of the pain of actually having to do it all and all the emails as well, because that's freed me up so much time myself. We do have core values there as well. I just want to bring this up, if you don't mind. Just the core values we have in IO is the same as I have in Naylor, but just if you are looking at doing it, if we don't think you as the client are meeting the core values in any way, shape or form, we will talk to you as well. So it's a partnership. So we will, if you have core values, we'll want them integrated into that team member as well. But it's a team, it's a partnership. We don't see it as an adversarial, and we want to help make it work. And that's the difference you have with us, with most other offshoring. We actually want it to work, and we also boutique and know niche in this UK accounting area. But so the clients that we have are the ones that are mainly wanting to grow, or just get rid of pain, basically.
Brilliant. Thank you. And thank you so much. So I'm going to say, did that just sneak in? I don't think there's a question. Is there a price list?
You need to speak to Dee, basically, because it all depends on what you are looking for, and then she'll give you a range. But Dee's the person to talk to on that.
Yeah. And obviously there's no, if anybody rings up and has a chat, you're more than welcome to have a conversation and explore, see whether it works or not. And
definitely.
Whether it works. Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you. That's brilliant. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Janice.
Thank you, Simon.
You're welcome.
Janice, are you there? You're not watching Harry Potter?
I'm not watching Harry Potter still now. I appreciate that it's
I'll do that later.
It's early, but it's kind of late for you, but it's early in your working day. So that's brilliant. If anybody's got any questions, then and you're watching this on YouTube or watching it in the Facebook group when I upload it, just put them in the comments, and I'll gladly pass them on to Nikolai. Or alternatively, you can obviously search for Nikolai on LinkedIn or go on the website and make contact and find out more. That's fantastic. Thank you very much for your contribution, Janice.
You're welcome. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah, thanks,
Thank you,
Janice.
Nikolai.
No, thank you so much, Simon.
We'll catch
And
up
thank you
soon.
all for
Thank
listening.
you. And thank you to everybody for watching. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Lam.